I believe we as a species are yet to identify our greatness, though this is changing. And in this video, I hope to expand your mind so you can go about the business of creating your life exactly the way you want to. Designing your life and your body in a way that makes your life work for you. Now, I think there's a place within each of us that knows that there's more to us than we realise. More than meeting our needs and living in our comfort zone day in, day out. We're so identified with our mind and our body that we forget to keep peeling back the onion until we get to the core of our being. Is the reflection in the mirror really me? Is the endless thought chatter in my head really me? When you get to the core of your being, you're going to love you. You're going to discover that you are eminently more powerful than you have played to date. And you can go about the business of making your life work the way you want it to work. I want to challenge you to come to the awareness of living your life at cause, not at effect. And how can one live at cause if they don't get that they are in fact part of the entire creative process of everything that is? Our reality is created from within. The mind, as Milton said, is its own place. It creates a heaven of a hell or a hell of a heaven. And all of our beliefs are filtered through the apparatus of the mind. Every second, an avalanche of data pours through our senses. And to process this deluge, the brain is continuously sifting and sorting information, trying to tease apart the critical from the casual. And since nothing is more critical to the brain than survival, the first filter most of this incoming information encounters is the amygdala. These days, we are saturated with information, aren't we? We have millions of news outlets competing for our mind's share. And how do they compete? By vying for the amygdala's attention. Attention is such a limited resource. Once we're focused on one thing, we often don't notice the next. Your brain is a wonderfully integrated system, so these processes work in concert, and the symphony is not always pretty. A prime concept we're going to explore in this video is that your unconscious mind can communicate with every cell in your body. Not only does information from your mind affect your body, but there is now scientific evidence that your mental processes, your mental states, and your mental behaviours affect all the cells of your body all the time. You can do anything, but whether or not you actually do depends on your ability to communicate with your unconscious mind. And I'm here to help you develop that ability. Now, some people truly believe that due to lack of talent or intelligence, that they won't succeed in their chosen endeavour, that they won't succeed at creating their life and their body exactly the way that they want it. That there's always someone better, someone smarter, someone stronger, someone faster than you, so why bother? Now, what academics and scientists are now discovering is that anyone with the correct belief system, work ethic and drive, as well as the ability to imagine or visualise their success, can pretty much achieve anything that they set their minds to do. Whether it's a better golf swing, a higher grade point average, or changing their body shape permanently. So what I want you to do is become aware of what side of the equation you're creating from. Ask yourself a question. Is it cause or is it effect? Now, if you're on the cause side of the equation, you're on the side of the equation which says, yes, I take responsibility. I'm responsible for everything I create in a joyous, exciting, and loving way. The other side of the equation is the effect side. It's not a comfortable side to be on, and it's also not a popular side to be on. However, it's the side most people in the world are on right now. If you're on the effect side of the equation, you're saying, yes, everything that happens to me, I didn't do it, someone else did it to me. And you pass the buck. I want to ask you a question though. Who's driving the bus? Who's in the driver's seat? Who's in charge of the results you produce? If you're on the cause side of the equation, you're the one who's going to produce results. If you're on the effect side of the equation, you have lots of reasons why you didn't get what you wanted. Now, I don't know if you've thought about this, but it's the reason side of life is not the best side to be on. It's not the most empowering side, and it's definitely not the most satisfying side either. Nevertheless, it's the most prevalent side that society's on right now. But there is a paradigm shift occurring, and it's very exciting because we are standing before the door to freedom and potential on a scale never seen or experienced before. If If you've never been able to create exactly what you want in your life, then life's not going to be very satisfying for you, is it? And we all know people who are like this, who are stuck in a rut, and they say things like, well, I would have been a success if it hadn't been for, and they'll usually name someone, they'll name a business partner, an ex-wife or a situation, something or someone that did it to them. So it's not their fault. Now, shifting to the core side of the equation will totally change your life and the results you produce. My job in this training program is to move you from the effect side of the equation over to the core side of the equation. Now, if you're pushing the cause outside of yourself, then you're never going to be able to get enough learning, enough information so you can create something differently. So you can create your life and your body exactly the way you want it. As long as you're pushing the cause outside of yourself out there, then you're essentially giving up your power to somebody else. Now, it is hard to know if we create all the bad things that happen to us consciously, but I do know and I do believe that the subtotal of all our conscious plus our unconscious choices have led us to exactly where we are today. So ask yourself, are you on the core side of the equation or the effect side of the equation? In life, you have results or you have reasons why you didn't get what you want. It's about changing the internal representations that occur, those things that happen to you so that they are of your creation. Now, I'm not saying that you create all the horrible things and the bad things that happen to you. What I am saying though, that the sum total of all your choices, both conscious and unconscious, have led you to exactly where you are today. Now, whether it's your waistline or whether it's your bank balance or whatever. The moment you accept that, the moment you accept it and move to the core side of the equation, saying, alrighty, I chose this, I accept it, I created it, even though it was unconscious, now I'm done with it and I'm ready to move on. You embrace the situation so much that you get the learnings from it. Because the learnings really are the key. I don't think anybody would consciously create stuff in their life that was horrible. But I do think we put ourselves in these situations in life through our conscious and unconscious choices. So having decided that, we can also choose where we want to be. Now, the human communication model says an external event comes inside our neurology and through the filters that we have. We then delete, we distort, and we generalize these events. And those filters are time, shape, space, matter, energy, language, memories, values and beliefs, attitudes, decisions, and meta-programs. They filter what our experience is and then we make an internal representation of it. And our internal representation is made up of V, A, K, O and G. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, gustatory and olfactory. Or in other words, pictures, sounds, feelings, smells and tastes. And finally we label those experiences with our internal dialogue. Now, what you may not be aware of, your internal dialogue, the words you use to label your experiences, constitute suggestions which you give your unconscious mind. So your point of view or your evaluation of your external experience also makes a difference as to what kind of suggestions you are giving your unconscious mind. Now, we have around 2 million bits of information per second which is coming in through all these channels, through all the inputs into the neurology of our human nervous system. So we get around 2 million bits of information per second, and the human brain is capable of handling around 134 bits a second. Yet we're bombarded by an amazing 2 million bits per second of information. I'll give you an analogy of exactly how much that is. Imagine in your right hand that I'm handing you a toothpick, and you hold it and then I hand you another toothpick. And let's just say for a moment I'm handing you 134 toothpicks. Now imagine that I'm handing you 134 toothpicks per second, holding them in your right hand. Now imagine that I'm handing you 2 million toothpicks per second. Can you fathom that? Imagine of all those 2 million toothpicks, you have to grab 134 of those toothpicks and put them into your left hand. So of the 2 million bits of information a second that we receive through all of our channels, only about 134 of them are capable of being processed by the brain. Now the brain is an information processing unit. It processes the information that comes in, it takes the information and it makes it into an internal representation using pictures, sounds, feelings, smells and tastes. And AD, which is auditory digital, in other words, our self-talk. Now, there are 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information that our conscious mind is capable of processing. So we take that 134 bits of information and we tend to group it or chunk it into that 7 plus or minus 2 chunks to be able to manage the information. Now, 7's a magic number for the human nervous system. Most people can't remember any more of 7 of any product category, for example. Try to remember the top 7 brands of sporting apparel, for example. After about 3 or 4, you'll begin to struggle. And so the 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information are simply groups of information that we can hold in working memory. The perceptions that we hold are deleted, distorted and generalized from the 2 million bits per second of information reduced to 134 bits per second and then grouped into 7 plus or minus 2 chunks. So we tend to leave out a lot of information. So the human nervous system cannot attend to things outside its realm of experience. The universe is probably a lot more chaotic than we think it is, but the human nervous system is designed to impose order upon the chaos. Think about this for a second. You're leaving out so much information from what you see, from what you hear, from what you feel, taste and smell, and the self-talk, that it's not even possible for you to fully attend to every bit of information that comes to you. Now, you can tell how you're going with the cause and effect by looking at the people around you. You know, Carl Jung said that we tend to marry our unconscious mind and then project out onto her all of our unresolved stuff. We project out onto total strangers and we say, well, I can accept that person, or I can accept that person, but that person over there, there's no way that's me. And of course, the fact is that that is the person that is most likely like you. And so we tend to leave out a lot of information. And the information that is most unconscious within us, we by need must project it out onto someone around us. We must by need project it out onto people and events around us. So the fact is that we can't really see anything other than who we are. This means that the better our personal belief system is, the better the world we experience. Now, I believe you can totally transform yourself. My beliefs are unlimited because I've seen clients do some amazing, incredible things. And I've seen phenomenal changes of transformation and healing that I now come to expect it. You are a light being, a creator, a powerful one. You're magnificent. And I know you can change. Yes, it does require a little effort, but you're totally going to get it and you're totally going to empower yourself. When you make sure that your head's in the right place, that your own internal thinking is a positive internal representation of the outcome, that the pictures that you're holding in your mind are positive and that you're in a state of excellence, and when you totally believe that you can do anything, and when you're in complete congruent, your behavior will reflect that which is reflected back to you by your experience and the world around you. It's all inside of you. As I've stated previously, the power of your mind is tied directly to your well-being physically, your physicality. We know a lot today about psychosomatic illness, the relationship of anxiety, stress, depression, and the body's symptoms that show up. There's hardly a disease today that science is not relating in some way or another to an emotional counterpart. In effect, your unconscious mind communicates with every single cell in your body. Deepak Chopra first explored this prime concept in 1986 when he wrote a book called Quantum Healing. He said that neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger in the brain, actually touches every single cell in the body. The immune system constantly eavesdrops on your internal dialogue because of this ability of neurotransmitter to affect every single cell. Everything that goes on in your mind is capable of being transmitted in an instant to every single cell in your body. This is hugely exciting, and this is the mind-body connection. You and I are an integrated unit. We're not separate, but rather part of a whole. You and your body are a physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental component of the universe. Very much like a star in a galaxy comprised of key systems. The musculoskeletal, the visceral, which are your organs, limbic, emotional, and hormonal, which are each linked to more subtle body centers such as emotional, mental, and spiritual. So let me explain how a neuron works. This is a simple diagram of a neuron to make it easy to understand. Information or a signal comes down from the cell body and then it hits the synaptic gap, and those little dots between the synaptic gap that you can see there are neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter then go across the synaptic gap and are picked up by receptors on the other side. Originally, neurotransmitter was thought to be just in the brain, but in 1957, a guy named Penfield drilled a hole in a woman's head and he was probing her brain with an electrode, attempting to find out if he could cure her epilepsy. But he thought he had found the seed of memory because he touched one of her neurons, and in the spark that went across the synaptic gap, he found that she remembered everything from a birthday party when she was 2. Written up in the Penfield study in 1957, she could remember the smell of the birthday cake. She could see her parents exactly the way they looked when she was 2. She had a very, very clear memory of her birthday party when she was 2, clear and succinct. Penfield then postulated in 1957 that everything that happens to you is then stored in your brain. So then the rat doctors got busy. As they cut up the rats and were taking out portions of the rat's brain, what they found was that even if they took out the brain and not the brainstem, that the rat could still run the maze. So it was Carl Pribram at Stanford University who postulated in 1960 that memories are stored holographically throughout the body. So this neurotransmitter that generally goes between each cell, every single synaptic gap on every single neuron in the body, now is found to be roaming through and touching every single cell in the body. This is the mind-body connection. The issue of neurotransmitter is where the mind affects the body. So no longer can anyone say, well, it's just in your mind, because the fact is they've found neurotransmitter everywhere in the human body. It's not just in the brain and it's not just in the nervous system, but it's actually available to affect every single cell in your body. Now that means whether you're awake or asleep, or whether you're happy, whether you're sad, whether you're present and listening to me, or whether you're daydreaming or driving a car or whatever, looking around and not doing anything, everything that goes on in your mind is capable of being transmitted at any moment to all the cells in your body. Every single cell. This is really exciting because this is proof of the mind-body connection. The potential for healing is unlimited, and it is why, my friend, that I believe you can totally transform your life in a major, major way. Nothing is impossible unless you think it is. And when science wakes up to the fact that this is the mind-body connection, when medicine totally acknowledges that the mind-body connection exists here, the world is going to shift big time. People's ideas are going to change, and the world en masse is going to change very, very rapidly. And you are at the forefront. So this idea of neurotransmitter is so incredibly important and exciting. Every single cell in your body, the trillions upon trillions of cells, are continually affected by the neurotransmitter that is between the synaptic gap and now it also roaming free through the whole body, touching every single cell. This is the mind-body connection. So with the accelerated change system, we're going to influence the body primarily. And we're going to use the mind to focus on what we're doing. When you combine the two, it changes how you feel in an instant. And it works as long as you're following instructions and doing the technique. And what we're doing is just very, very simple. It's just a breathing pattern, deep, deep belly breathing, and just following instructions. What happens if we discover who we are? You are not a sheep, but in fact a mighty lion. What happens if once and for all that you discovered that who you are is essentially consciousness? Underneath all those layers of onion skin is a spirit playing in a physical body, the divine in drag. We are not our bodies, we're not our minds. We are consciousness having an experience in a body that we identify as us. The body is our vehicle that allows us to experience this tiny frequency range called the world. Does that affect you? If that was a possibility, what does the game become then? It's time for us to get off our knees and take control of our lives and give ourselves back the power to create our lives exactly the way we want it by being at cause. What are you going to create today?